Coming up next on Parent Connection, we're going to have a conversation about PIAC. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Parent Connection. I'm your host, Jen Lombardi. During today's show, we are going to learn about the Superintendent's Parent Involvement Advisory Council, or PIAC for short. We have two guests today, Sekou Hayes and Shelley Davenport. Thank you, Sekou and Shelley, for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Sekou, can you tell me a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I'm just a current resident here in Anne Arundel County, father of 5 children total who have all graduated from Anne Arundel County schools except for one who's now 9 years old. His name is Kai, and he is currently a student at Glen Burnie Park Elementary at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a family involvement specialist for the Office of School and Family Partnerships, working with you. And I'm also a lifelong Anne Arundel County resident. Went to Chesapeake High School, and I have 4 children, not 5, 4 children. One just graduated, and I have 3 juniors at Chesapeake High School. So.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. So we really appreciate both of you being here today. So I have some questions so we can learn a little bit more about what PIAC is all about. So Sekou, how did you become involved with PIAC?
Personally, I had received an email invitation from my school, well, my son's school, well, actually one of my older children's school, which was Old Mill at the time, to become involved in it a few years ago. Those kids have now graduated, and I became involved in it basically as a concerned parent who wanted to get more connection to the information as far as what the school was doing, and to possibly give them some information and connect with them as well. So I replied to the email, and I got an email back that I was selected, and I was given a meeting schedule, and I showed up, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, we're glad you did. Can you tell us a little bit more about the mission of PIAC or the purpose?
Well, the purpose, as I was given of PIAC, was to allow the school system a better connection with the parental community right around them that sends their children to the school. Kids go to school every day, they go home, they come back to the school every day. And the point of PIAC, or what I got, was to get a better connection with all of the schools by utilizing a small, diverse group of people who would represent each school within the county of Anne Arundel and would come together with their information and communicate with each other to say that, you know, this is what's going on here, these are the problems we have, how do we resolve them, how do we communicate better with the parents to help get these things resolved. So I, as a communicating person, felt that it would be my best position to be in a point of communication, basically to be at the table for the conversation. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes the toughest thing that we have in the community is we see the result of and we hear the effect of, but we're not ever there for the conversation. And a lot of times all we have to be is there for the conversation so we can communicate what we need directly to the resource that's providing us the need that we have.
Okay, so how does the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Council help you be part of that conversation or help?
Well, basically, like I explained previously, they've selected a number of parents like myself who are members of the community. You know, we work, we do whatever our lives are at that point in time, and we come together at this one moment in time, one point in a month, and we basically speak to each other. We communicate. And if a person has issues with transportation, and they might feel like they're the only person that has it because they don't really get to communicate with everybody else and find out what the solutions are. So what we get is a group of people, not all with complaints, some with, you know, praises as well, and we also have that connection with the actual superintendent's office and folks here at Anne Arundel County, which is what is missing, because we have kids, we have parents, we have teachers, we have all these things going on, but there's still a disconnect. And PIAC was designed to put in place the connection there.
And that really helps make it clear about the purpose of PIAC. So I heard you talk about transportation. What are some of the other topics you guys have explored on PIAC during your tenure?
Well, we go through a few different things because, like I said, it's such a diverse group. So everybody has their own, I don't use the term agenda, but they have their own issues and concerns and things that they want to bring up in those meetings. So we have these cluster reports where each person represents their group of 7 or 8 schools with the information that they got from the PTA, because they were connected to that by being present or speaking to the people through email to get information, and able to take that information back to another group of people who are actually directly connected to the Anne Arundel County public school system daily, running this thing every single day. So the beauty of that is, as a parent, I'm at work, right? All day, 8 hours, 40 hours a week, that's our standard. And I'm not able to connect to that school in real time at any point in time during the day. I only have what my child brings home from school, or if, let's say, the teacher calls me because something's going on at the school. Now I'm connected. Now the teacher's communicating with me and I can find out the exact real-time thing that's happening in a whole nother place that I'm not in. You see what I'm saying? And PIAC is another way of doing that, or another way of doing that maybe similar to how we're doing the show, where we're doing those things in real time. We're interacting real time, and then later on we get to go gather more information and come back and interact real time again, and then take that information back and interact in real time again, as opposed to an email that I might miss, you know, or a piece of paper that may or may not get to the house because my kid might have ripped it up or done something with it before that connection was made with the information. And once I have the information as a parent in the community, I'm able to now make choices and decisions based on the information that I've received. Because if I don't have that information, I can't really make that choice.
So can you think of any particular thing, especially because I worked with you last year on PIAC, so any particular piece of information that was like, wow, I'm glad I got that, and I didn't know about that?
Well, me personally, because of some things that I'm dealing with my own situation, one of the best connections I was able to make, and it was definitely through PIAC, was I was able to connect directly with persons in charge of the special education programs, and you know how that whole system really works, and you know what the child is going to be able to get, even from all the way to the minimal amount of how much each child in that category is actually, you know, given as far as funding. That's something I, as a parent, did not have any idea of. You see what I'm saying? I mean, I know that there's money and there's, you know, we sign papers and we say our kids are in this category or whatever, but I was never able to actually connect that to an actual number of resources that my child had available, because I wasn't able to connect inside of the building to the resources that were inside of the school. I was disconnected in a way, even though my child was there, right? So PIAC got me the ability to actually speak directly with people in the special education group, to get meetings and things started with the school administrators that I couldn't really seem to get scheduled in a way with the school administrators because we had communication issues between our schedules. And it gave me this extra connection that allowed me to actually be able to interact directly with the things that are impacting our children every single day in the school system. It's amazing that you guys put this together. It's unfortunate that more people can't take advantage of it, but the unfortunate truth is if you put thousands of people in a situation, it wouldn't work. You have to have a dedicated group of people who have a particular purpose at that time in that meeting. And their purpose at that time is to bring information and gather it. And then take that information and connect it back to the community where the parents are. The parents don't go to school, they stop in for PTA meetings, so they have connection points, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But there's no real-time connectivity because we don't have enough connected entities with the parents themselves. All of our parents have multiple ways of being contacted, but they're not always contacted in the same ways. And PIAC allows us to make those decisions as a parent as to how we want to be contacted. Shelley knows she can email me, but I might not be an email guy. I might be like, look, you got to call me. And I can establish that communication with her because now I've been able to meet with her in a place in real time and say, Shelley, if you want your energy source to communicate with me and we can line up on the same thing, then this is how we communicate. This is how we connect. But because every connection isn't the same.
Right. So once you learned a lot about special ed and got a lot of information, how did you communicate that information back to the schools you represent?
Well, basically, what I'm able to do, I mean, the schools are really pretty much aware of the things I'm aware of. You know, they know what their budget gets for per student. They know that. But I, as a parent, don't really know how to equate that to what my child sees and does every day in the moments of instruction that he's there. So what I'm able to do is now leverage that information to get my child the resources that he's able to get in school in real time from day to day. I interact with the teachers through Class Dojo. I interact with the teachers, and these are different connections, but I'm the type of person that can connect this way. Not everybody uses the same connections as I do, but if we did, as a community, we would be more connected by utilizing the technology that was in between us. Because even though I want to connect with you, I am physically in a whole different place, and I cannot get the information I need so that I can retrieve the resource that you have available that you want to give me. The teachers want to teach, the administrators want to administrate, and things like that. But a lot of times the disconnect is they're not able to communicate their needs to the public, and the public's not able to communicate the needs of their child directly back to them in real time.
But you're also communicating with the parents in your cluster, right?
In the same way.
Okay.
Now I'm that connection. You see what I'm saying? Now that's what PIAC is for. That's why we represent these 7 schools. Well, I represent 7 schools. I don't know if everybody's got 7. Some people might have more or less. But I have 7 schools that I represent, that I get to interact with, let's say, the principal of each of those 7 schools, the PTA of each of those 7 schools. I get to now take that cluster of information back to a big building, so to speak, which is the Anne Arundel County boardroom or wherever we meet. I now bring that resource into the building and I make it available for everybody else who's in that building with me. And they get to take it back to their cluster.
Okay.
That's the design of PIAC.
Okay.
Right.
So besides topics, what are some of the places that you've seen in Anne Arundel County Public Schools?
Well, Anne Arundel County Schools is a great place. Let's just start there. They have so many different resources, from vocational technology type things like the CAT North and South. They have great schools from public schools, some private schools. They have a lot of really great resources in the county. It's just a really great place.
Well, remember last year we went to CAT North.
Exactly, and I enjoyed it so much. They had this motorcycle program where kids are learning how to, basically repair motorcycles, which, a lot of times what we miss in the educational system is not every kid is the valedictorian. That's just the way it is. Some of us are not that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't be educated, right? We're agreed on that, right? So I think what a lot of times we forget is what the point of education is to educe. You know what educe means? You know what induce means, right?
Right.
To like put something in for something.
Right.
So educe is the opposite of that. Educe is to bring something out of or develop it. And that's the root word of education, okay? Education is based on the word educe, okay? So never forget that, okay? So the job of everybody in the educational system is not to induce, okay, but to educe, which is to bring out or develop that which is in the energy of these children. So each child's energy is a little bit different. It's got a whole different, I hate to use the term IP address. We're all different computers. We might be hooked to the same operating system, if that makes sense. We still all have the same limbs or whatever. And some of us don't have all the same things because of things that have happened in life. But I'm just saying, by design, we're supposed to be human, okay? That the one human element, which is the IP address, right? And what we have to do is we have to bring out within each of these children that energy that allows us to get the information connected to them. So some children aren't going to be the book kids. Some of those kids are going to be the kids that are at that motorcycle program I saw that was wonderful at Cat North. But there's some of those children are stuck in the trail of where the valedictorian is, and that's not where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be at Cat North, and the reason why they're not there is because they're disconnected from it.
Right.
They don't have the information. So PIAC's job, and our job as the parents and the community, is to connect the information.
Well, what was so wonderful about when we went there is that I think that all of the PIAC members that were there, some of them were familiar, but some of them weren't, and then they were able to go, oh, wow, I'm going to make sure that everybody in my cluster knows about this. So it was basically an advertisement of sorts. Wouldn't you know what I mean?
And that's the first part of the connection.
Right.
So the first part was getting the information to the people in the cluster, right? The second piece of that is how do we connect those people to the PTA, right?
Right.
Right.
So that's where we ran into the thing where we had the discussion about, look, if I'm sending the email, these folks don't know who I am because they haven't been effectively communicated with to know why I'm even there. They have no reason why I'm contacting them other than, who's this guy?
And the value of the information you have to share.
Exactly. They have no idea what I'm really there for. So I'm just a junk mail to them. Unless my kid is actually in their school. That's what makes the difficulty. That's why I asked you guys if you could literally position yourselves in that way so that when I come, they already know why I'm actually in the building. Why is he here? We already know why he's here.
Right.
We
And how
already
he
know
can
what he's doing is he's trying to connect us
Right.
directly in real time or in some level of delay, like we're doing with the recordings, but quicker is probably a better idea to increase the overall involvement level. Let's say 33.3% is what we're trying to do, which is not everything, right? But it's a really good amount. If you take 33.3%, which is basically like, a piece of, what is that, 99.9 and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not doing, I was working on this math problem all weekend that, I got to deal with a little bit later. But nonetheless, if we dealt with things in that 33.3, as opposed to dealing with things in delay, right?
Right.
Then we would be able to interact faster and gain information and resources from the people who are in our energy and designed to give us those resources. How do we connect to, you want to give me something, I don't know you want to give it to me. So on my side, I'm thinking you don't want to give it to me, and on your side, you're thinking I don't want it.
Well, it's about building the relationship.
And that's
And
the
that's what
point
you're
of the
doing with
connection.
right,
You
with
see what I'm
PIAC.
saying?
Right.
So that's what a lot of people are missing. It's not that we have adversaries on two sides of a fence. It's that we're missing the connection to get information to people. And what I do as a person, that's what my energy source is designed to do in this place, is to connect people. So you and I had a situation a little earlier, right?
Oh, when you were looking for the
When I was looking for what?
internet. Internet.
A connection.
Right.
Right? I needed to talk to people who are not physically here with me. But they do exist. We know that because they're on our email and we know that they're people, but they're not here. And I'd have to now be able to connect to them in real time to get them some information so that they can now make decisions on their real time based on the information I gave them. If I can't get this email sent out before 10, 11 o'clock, then that means the employees that I supervise don't know where their supervisor is. So they don't know what they're supposed to do. So now they're running around weird. Now they don't have purpose in the moment. They don't know what to do simply because I have not made the connection to the information.
Right.
And she helped me do that. It took about 5 minutes, and I had a way to do it. I came in here with technology, and I said, I just need to get connected, and then we can do this thing, right?
And it really helped.
All right, so thank you so much for getting me connected. You don't know that you just affected in real time from Maryland. You just affected something that's going on in Brownsville, Texas.
I was going to say
while we're doing something. You see what I'm saying? While we're over here doing something, something in Brownsville, Texas was directly affected by you physically here. Isn't that great to think about?
That is.
And it was done through technology.
I've done my job for the day.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about, right?
Yeah, it is.
But it's so real. It's real. You know that happened, right? You can say to me that right now I did interact with somebody who's not sitting in front of me.
Right.
But you know that somewhere in that world of their time, they are reacting to information that I was able to give them from however many miles away. And it was because I was able to get it to them quick that they're able to now adjust what they have to do with this day at this moment to the information I got to them. And that's what PIAC is all about.
Yeah, so Sekou, what have you learned about, you represent the Old Mill cluster. What have you learned about other clusters within our school system?
Well, personally, what I've learned is that we're not very different. That's what I'm learning. You know, we're different in, you know, I'm tall, you're short, you know, I'm black, you're white, that kind of stuff. But what I'm saying is, as far as parents who have a concern for their children's education, and educators on the opposite end, let's say inside of a building, that have the education in their hands. They have the tools, they have the resources, they have the books, they have the curriculum, they have all these things as resources, right? And they want to get these resources into these children who they interact with each year independently. So you're my teacher in first grade, but not my teacher in second grade. You're my teacher in, you're not my teacher in third grade. You're probably never my teacher again. I hate to say it. My first grade teacher never repeated herself.
It's not right.
But she did interact at some point with a bunch of other kids behind me, and she probably interacted with a bunch of other kids before me. But at the time when I was there to interact with her, she may not have been able to educate me, which is to bring out what was me at the time. I was a little creative, I was kind of goofy, you know, so sometimes these things get confused and, you know, kids become considered hyperactive or ADHD because that person has not had enough time to really take a good assessment. Let me finish. To take a good assessment of this child, right? The one person that can take a good assessment of that one child, that one energy source, is the person that created it, right? Their parents, right? So the person that has the best feeling about what is it that I see my child likes to dance, I need to figure out how to educate him through dance. Along with, you know, of course, teaching him English and writing and things along with that. Like, think about it. When you do a music class, you have to read music. So you have to know how to read. So I will teach you to read through music, and I will also teach you rhythm, mathematics. You see what I'm saying? And now you get to learn in the way that you were educed. And I, as a teacher, now have the tools and resources to do that. The reason why is because I'm connected to the person that has the best idea of what you need to be educed in order to be educated.
And you also know what's available in our system.
Exactly.
And you can communicate that.
Now that we have that information, we can communicate it. So what our job is as PIAC members, as family members, as school members, is to figure out where that disconnect is and connect it. Just like you did for me earlier today. I needed to interact with some people who were not in front of me. They weren't there. And I wanted to tell them something that was very important to their workday in a whole nother place, right? Okay. And the only way I was able to do that was through technology. If I had not been able to get connected, that situation would have continued to be whatever it was going to be. And I would have been over here freaking out, probably would have been more nervous in this interview than I am now, as opposed to being relaxed now knowing that what's going on in Brownsville, Texas is covered because I got connected to them.
So how much experience do you think a member or a parent should have in other leadership roles or anything like that to become a member?
Well, with PIAC in its specific role, there's only specific people that are going to be able to do it. And that's just the truth. It requires some level of flexibility with your schedule. You know, you can't have a standard 9 to 5 all the time. Why? Because we have to go to work to do what? Pay money to make money to keep our kids, you know, good clothes and keep them in good schools in Anne Arundel County.
Available during the meeting time.
Right. So a lot of parents aren't able to do that. So the fact that we're able to get, what are we, 22 people? About 22 people, right? We got 22 people out of however many thousand people live in Anne Arundel County that at the same exact moment are able to be in the same exact room and during the workday that we're all adjusted to, 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. You know, some people work weekends, some people don't, but the standard is Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. That's what we do. Or, you know, 9 through 5, 9 to 6, whatever your lunch schedule is. Some people take lunch, some people don't. But you all see what I'm saying. So as an individual who wants their child to be educed, and I want to be able to connect to that energy directly, right? And pull out of him in real time what he needs to be able to help the teacher not be as frustrated, because the teacher might only know one particular way. She knows the curriculum, which is the valedictorian curriculum. You see what I'm saying? If you learn all of this and you get 100% on this, then you will be straight A student and you will be this. That's a very standard, and that's a lot of people should be able to do that, but not everyone's going to be able to. And what we have to also be able to deal with is the people that are outside of that lane, and also EDUs, so that they can all have success in life. Right?
So if a parent could make their schedule work, would you recommend them applying?
I recommend anybody apply to PIAC, but what I also would recommend is that we have a general understanding as a community of what PIAC is. PIAC is not a town hall. It's not a free-for-all.
Right.
It's a place that people come to specifically connect information between places that are not physically right next to each other. So like I'm talking to you guys in real time right now. You're hearing me, you're processing me like a computer in real time. Just boom, 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 right now. You don't have to wait 2 minutes for an email to come. You don't have to wait 2 days for a mail to come. You're able to interact with me in real time. So if I'm not here, how can you do that?
And that's what's awesome about PIAC, though.
PIAC is
that's
that.
real-time
So that's what I'm
relationship
saying. So what I want to keep in mind is not everybody is going to be able to do that, but not everybody has to do it if they communicate with what they can communicate with, like the PTA.
Right.
If I can communicate with the PTA and the PTA is connected to PIAC and PIAC is connected to the superintendent, then that means in real time, I'm able to get my issue heard, put it on something, and even possibly be available to vote about it if I see it come up on a ballot. You see? But a lot of us don't really get that information. Somebody will say, well, we sent this out, via email that there was this meeting. But the meeting was at 2:30 p.m. on a Monday.
Sometimes people can't be
And
there.
a lot of times people can't be there because the greater majority of Anne Arundel County is good, hard-working people that work a standard kind of schedule where during those hours we are at work. So in order for us to interact in real time with you in Anne Arundel County Public Schools, I now have to take away from the amount of money that I can make to provide for the same kid that I'm putting in your school. So I have to make that decision.
Right. Now, with only 2 minutes left,
Oh,
or
I'm
actually
sorry.
a minute left, I want to ask Shelley a couple questions about how
I'm
do you,
so sorry I took all the
No,
time.
you're good. You're good. How do you become a member of PIAC? How do people get notified about that?
So generally, there's a press release that comes out in late May, early June. And sometimes I think probably people reach out and say, hey, you should really apply, in the case of Sekou. So there's a press release, and then over the summer, there is a group that takes a look at and takes a look and sort of says, okay, how can we make this fit with the children that we see out in the school system? So the diversity that we see out in the school system, how can we match that and make sure our group looks like those faces? And then usually, I think it's late August, we make all the decisions and email everyone and say, hey, you're still interested, and go from there.
And what kind of time commitment is it for them?
It's between 5 and 6 meetings in the year. So
Per month at what, 9:45
so it's-
to 11:45 in the morning? That's our current.
Right.
I mean, that could change at some point, but currently we meet once a month
right,
at
but it's not.
9:45 to
right.
11:45.
I think we take off in December.
Yeah, but that's our standard. We meet 6 times a month at 9:45 in the morning.
6 times a year.
5
or 6
I'm
times a year.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I really appreciate your time. I think our audience now has a really good understanding about the mission and purpose of
I
PIAC.
hope they did. I'm sure they did.
and-
This was perfect.
And who could join and when they could become a member. So again, look out for the press release next May. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Sekou, for joining us. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Parent Connection.
The new kindergarten, first, and second grade curriculums are designed to engage students in a variety of learning opportunities that involve cooperation and problem solving.
What do I do?
Student discourse and structured play develop social foundations through peer interaction. This learning block promotes curiosity, imaginative thought, and responsiveness. The primary focus is on the work of young children, play. The use of tools and materials allows students to share, take turns, and develop the confidence to make effective decisions in school and in life. Ask your child how they interacted with their friends today while engaging in structured play.